Okay, we're going to do kind of an experimental stream relating to a certain person who loves to talk a lot
Hi,
about
everybody. Welcome to Jimmy.
injustice and the world and how everybody sucks. And that's Jimmy Dore. So we'll see how this goes. I don't know if this will work. This is my first time using OBS in a while. And I think the last time it didn't work very well. And if you're looking at the screen, I'd rather the screen didn't look the way it did right now, but this is just some experimentation. So this is him talking about the New York Times, what he says, jaw-dropping biased reporting on Israel.
Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with Graham Elwood, the political vigilante and the miserable liberal.
Hello. I'm miserable. Are you performing somewhere?
Graham, where are you performing?
I'm doing the progressive comedy tour with Ron Placone. We're going to Tempe, Arizona, May 9th, Lake Havasu, May 10th, Vegas, May 11th, and San Diego, May 12th. You can go to the Facebook page, which is Progressive Comedy Tour, or my website, grahamelwood.com.
You know who will? Ed Schultz. And that's why he got fired. So if you have character and integrity and you want to actually tell the truth to the people who tune into you for the truth, you will be fired from MSNBC. And that's why we have a show. So here actually is what's been going on. And so I want to show you the rest, but the way they've been covering Gaza, Chris Hayes covered Gaza correctly on MSNBC for 3 whole minutes. They let him cover it for 3 whole minutes.
So I want to stop there. Sorry, but, again, this is the first time I'm using OBS in a while. But he's saying they covered it correctly for the first time for 3 minutes. Well, what's correctly? Correctly, apparently, is whatever Jimmy thinks is the right way to cover it. It's not based on actually looking at who is motivating what's going on over there. And you'll see that he actually actively dismisses. Jimmy Dore has this problem where if the news doesn't report things the way that he likes it to be reported, he'll go off and say, oh, they're basically being warmongers or whatever. Look, I know we both have disagreements about the mainstream media and how they report things. Sometimes you know what the hell you're talking about, Jimmy.
Isn't that amazing? So just so you know what's been going on in Gaza, you know that it's an open-air prison. It's an apartheid state. It's Israel is now doing to the Palestinians.
It can't be an apartheid state if it's an enclave over on the coast, and basically the Israelis don't have any administrative control over it. Okay, so they control their own area. It's been under their control since 2007 when they kicked out their own government. The Palestinian Authority government was kicked out. Sorry, I hate this freaking hair. I'm going to get a haircut this week. But in any case, he's calling it an apartheid state. Well, who imposed the regime that's in Gaza right now? Well, there was a Hamas revolution and they took over. So who's imposing the apartheid on Gaza? What does he want there to be? Does he want them to have free access to Israel, to just walk in there like anybody? That's basically his premise.
Palestinians, ironically, what people did to them, right? So they're oppressing people with no power because of their ethnicity. And that's why Israel...
They're oppressing them because of their ethnicity. Well, it's the same ethnicity as many people who are citizens of Israel. No, the reason that they're being quote unquote oppressed, I would say that they're being oppressed by multiple groups, including their own government, is that they are not citizens of a sovereign state, and they are basically they're an area of the world where there is no real regard for international law. The Gaza Strip is ruled by a group of people who are basically fanatical, theocratic, militants, and they desire to impose a state that is based on an ideology that is inherently anachronistic. Okay, so no, I don't think that it's an oppression that is linked to their ethnicity, because there's other parts of the world where that ethnicity exists fine. In fact, I've lived in a city where there's more in Israel, where there are people of the same ethnicity as them, and they don't experience. I mean, they probably experience some type of issues day to day with the government, but they don't experience the same type of oppression that is alleged to be occurring in Gaza.
Was created to protect Jewish people from just that sort of thing, and now they're doing the same thing to Palestine. Now, you can have arguments about who's to blame, what's whatever, but what's happening right now is one side has all the power and another side has none. So the people with all the power, it's incumbent upon them to act morally. The people with the power, it's upon them. They have greater responsibility in how this situation. So now these people, they're just.
So where did Jimmy get that sort of principle? Is it from Spider-Man or something? With great power comes greater responsibility? No, he actually says that with like about less than a minute ago. He says, well, it doesn't really matter who started what or how it came to be this way. You can argue whatever. It doesn't matter because now this is exactly the way that people who are progressives relate to conflicts around the world. And that's really why it's almost impossible to have common ground with that type of ideology if you're somebody who believes in issues in ideas like personal responsibility, professionalism, being able to take responsibility for. So he doesn't believe in personal responsibility. He believes more in collective responsibility. By the way, if you were to say, well, if there's collective responsibility, is collective punishment acceptable? He'd probably say, no, absolutely not. So which one is it, Jimmy? I mean, you're saying, oh, because they're the people with the greater power, then they have greater responsibility. But it doesn't matter how they arrived at this point. So therefore, the results of what happened in the past are irrelevant. That's essentially, that by the way, is the way that Jimmy Dore thinks. That's the way that he relates to the world. And that's kind of one of the reasons that he can't understand why people don't see it the same way as he does. And by the way, I mean, I'm not, on this issue, I'd probably say we have the greatest disagreement. We disagree on a number of things, me and Jimmy Dore. I'm not in the same wrong as Jimmy Dore in terms of creativity. If I'm saying in terms of opinion, I would probably disagree with him very heavily on this. There are other areas where we agree. And, this is me just analyzing his attitude to this, which is ridiculous. I mean, he's saying, oh, everything that happened in the past doesn't matter because now the power disparity is what really drives the conflict.
It's been 30 years. They've just been kept in like this. And every UN resolution condemns the settlements and what's been going on. And Jake Tapper will tell you that's because everybody's anti-Semitic. But here's what they started protesting finally by the wall. You see the wall. So the soldiers started to start picking them off. So the soldiers started just like shooting them. See, they're running and they're just kind of shooting. That's real gunfire. They're shooting them. So that was happening. Oh, shoot him again. So they've been using live. So let's shoot this guy. They're all praying. Let's start shooting them, which is what they did. That guy just got shot. So that's what they've been doing, right? And they killed journalists. I don't remember it being mentioned at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that the Israeli soldiers are sniper firing live rounds and killing journalists and killing unarmed people who are protesting an apartheid state. So that's what's really going on there. Here's how the New York Times covered. Here's some horrible headlines. How about that? Imran Siddiqui tweeted this out. This is what complicity looks like. The New York Times, urged by a Hamas leader, hundreds of Palestinian protesters tried to cross the security barrier from Gaza to Israel on Friday. Israel troops defended the fence with lethal force. So the Israelis, they're just defending themselves.
Well, again, who's initiating the contact? The contact. Okay, so he's saying, well, they are attacking the fence, but they're actually the Palestinians would be defending themselves, and the Israelis are not. No, when you attack even a physical structure, let's say you attack a police car, okay, and somebody shoots you because you're attacking the police car. Well, what did you expect? Even if they shoot a live round at you, that doesn't mean that you're the defender and they're the attacker. No, you attack the police car. The same thing when you attack a fence. Okay, now if you want to say, oh, it's disproportionate use of force, it's wrong, it's too well. Okay, then try to make that point when you have brigades of wire cutters coming and everything like that. So we're going to look at now. Let's see if he addresses the issue of the actual clerics that are talking about going to the fence.
With lethal force. They're just defending themselves. Urged on by a Hamas leader. What is wrong with that? So, again, this is why we have a show. Because the New York Times sucks like this.
And what's so offensive is they just sit there and put out this irresponsible false tweet, knowing people would just scroll through and see that and go, oh, well, Hamas is stirring things up.
They're stirring it up again, huh?
You know, what are they supposed to do?
Sharif Kudos tweets, Israeli troops shot dead 3 more protesters in Gaza today. The death toll is now over 40 dead and 5,000 wounded. Here's how the New York Times leads that story compared to Reuters. Here's the New York Times. Urged on by Hamas leader who told them not to fear death, but to welcome martyrdom, hundreds of Palestinian protesters stormed the Gaza security barrier and tried to cross into Israel on Friday.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
They have no
I
choice.
hope they killed them.
Yeah, they have no choice.
I hope they killed them. And here's how Reuters reported it. Israeli troops shot dead 3 protesters along the Gaza border on Friday. Gaza medics said hours after the United Nations human rights chief criticized Israel for using excessive force against demonstrators. That's a little different how they reported it at Reuters.
Huh.
I don't know what to believe, Jimmy.
I think it's the Palestinians, or I think it's they're told not to fear death. They're the other.
Yeah.
They're like Al Qaeda. They don't have the same values we do. They don't fear death. They don't value their own life. They're suiciders.
They want to go meet their virgins. They always bring up that one.
Oh yeah.
Going to meet the virgins against.
Okay, so I haven't watched this video yet, but let's see how they actually did talk about it. This is on Al-Aqsa TV, which is one of the state media organs of the Gaza Strip. This is from April 5th, which was several weeks ago.
قرر واكيد احنا مقررين وجيلنا مقرر وكل اجيال شعبنا يجب ان تقرر انه موضوع الهجره يجب ان ينتهي، حق لنا في ارضنا يجب ان نعود اليها. يجب ان نعود الى ارضنا من فوق الارض، من تحت الارض، مظاهرات، قنابل، اسلحه، متفجرات، احزمه ناسفه. لازم نرجع على ارضنا.
Okay, so you saw that. This was on April 5th. So all those road signs that are in that frame are the names. And actually, I was in 2 of those places, or 3. I think I was in Malay Adumim too. So those are all names of Israeli towns or settlements in the West Bank. So this was this was Iyad Abu Funun, basically saying, well, this is the way to victory. We're going to use, and you saw, I mean, they demonstrated it in the cartoon clip with M16 rifles, the same rifle I had in the military, grenades, as well as RPG-7 rocket launchers. So those of you saying, oh, this is about a peaceful demonstration or whatever, no. The peaceful demonstration is a smokescreen. The peaceful demonstration is basically what they use in order to, mask what their real intent is, which is to breach the fence and go in and cause havoc in the Israeli territories. Now, and in fact, in his own quote, he said, "We'll use every means at our disposal: explosives, bombs, underground tunnels." Demonstrations. Demonstrations are part of the other violent tactics.
It's the noble Israeli soldiers who, let's not forget, Israel won't acknowledge the Armenian genocide. Weird.
Well, look, it's
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point. Does Palestine acknowledge the Armenian genocide? By the way, who's one of the main funders of Hamas? It's the government of Turkey, which is their leadership denies the Armenian genocide because it's Turkey that has sustained it. Who funded the whole Gaza flotilla in I think it was 2011? It was Turkish organizations like IHH. Those were the organizations. So why bring up? I mean, it's ironic a guy who goes on a TYT show, which is the Jimmy Dore show, and says, "Oh, Israel won't acknowledge the Armenian genocide." I'm fine saying, yeah, they probably should recognize Armenian genocide. What does that have to do with this? I'm going to bring up one final point after I see what's left with Jimmy. I don't think I'm going to play the whole video, but
hundreds of Palestinian protests. They stormed. Sounds scary. Armed with nothing. They stormed military people with guns. Oh, I wonder what happened. Military people shot them dead. Oh.
If you're unarmed and you storm a bunch of
so remember, this is a story, and if you look at the comment section on this, it's absolutely slanted to Jimmy's side, which is to be expected. But the fact is that yes, there have been some. Let's see here. I know it sucks going on Wikipedia, but they do have the best, the most updated statistics usually. So there have been 47 dead over a month. Okay, so 47 dead. That's about, so a month and 6 days. So that's, 36 days. That's about less than 10 people per week. Okay, or about 10 people per week. Something like that. 10 or 11 people. And in fact, there are, it says thousands of people mostly unarmed. Now, how many people have been wounded? 7,900 injured, according to Gaza. Officially, there have been only 40 dead and 5,511 wounded. So, look, you can talk about genocides or whatever. If you have sharpshooters aiming at, mobs of protesters, don't you think it would be more than 47 dead, which is the highest estimate? Don't you think it would be higher than that? Don't you think that if they were really trying to kill people, it would be a lot easier to do this than to wound them in the legs or whatever? So it doesn't matter if you're trying to actually minimize fatalities. When people have an agenda to create this, this image of a country as being basically the scum of the earth, which is what they do with the Israelis. And, I'm not saying that their actions are perfect or that we should just clap our hands at them. And, I oppose a lot of the war rhetoric with Iran and Syria. All I'm saying is that you have to be fair in your coverage and really think about it. Really think about it, Jimmy. If they want to kill so many people, how come they don't just shoot them in the head? How come they don't shoot them in the heart? How come they don't shoot at the medics that come and take them away? You know, how come they don't shoot them from? I mean, they could probably bomb the crowds from the air.
Military guys, they can just grab you and tie you up and throw you down. If you have no weapons.
You have no weapons.
There's nothing, you're not a threat.
Right. They could gas you, right? They could pepper spray you.
Yeah.
They could do all that stuff they did to people up at Standing Rock. They could do that.
They could shoot you with a beanbag gun.
Yeah.
They could just trip you and you'd fall down and then a couple guys jump on you and then they put handcuffs on you and it's over.
Look at that again. Urged on by a Hamas leader who told them not to fear death, but to welcome. See, they're the crazies. Mm-hmm. They're the crazy jihadists. They're not like you. They're suicide themselves. They don't have the same values as you do. I hope someone shoots them dead. Oh, well, if you read Reuters, Israeli troops shot dead 3 protesters along the Gaza border on Friday, hours after the United Nations human rights chief criticized Israel for using excessive force against demonstrators. Now, this is not anti-Semitism. This is us supporting an unbelievable right-wing government that is slaughtering people. That's what this is. Shooting journalists. But if
I think there was only like one journalist who was shot, and I think let me see here, it was legal cases. I have to look somewhere else. 1 second. So that was on April 25th. Let's see here. So you can see, I mean, this is an image of what they're doing. They're burning tires by the border. And Ahmed Abu Hussein, who worked for Gaza's Al-Shab radio station and wore protective vest marked press at the protest on April 13th. So they said a bullet penetrated Abu Hussein's side. Well, could it be that one of the reasons he was wounded is because there's clouds of smoke being emanated from tires here? So maybe it doesn't help that he was wearing a press vest. I'm just taking a guess here. So there's no video here of the circumstances here. Says Yasser Murtaja, a cameraman for Palestinian Ain Media, was shot on April 6th and died the next day. And you know, if they were deliberately targeting people, then how come there haven't been more that have died? You know, there's thousands that have been wounded. Okay, again, Jimmy, when you have sharpshooters, you could probably aim for the head and kill people right away. So Jimmy Dore, I don't think that people really they don't want to realize the real truth of what's going on over there. It is a demonstration made in order to go and take this and say, hey, look, there's all these people dying here, all because the Israelis wanted to kill them. Well, think about it. They're telling people to try to crash an international barrier. That's what the Gaza Strip's border is now. It's an international barrier. It's an armed barrier with a military force behind it, and they're telling people to go crash the barrier. And then people like Jimmy Dore say, well, shame on the Israelis for trying to defend the barrier and not have people rush in through there using, you know, who've been radicalized by videos like the one I showed you from memory of Gaza Strip clerics saying, oh, this is our time to liberate Jerusalem through the use of the RPG and the M16 and everything and underground tunnels. That's the way to do it. So Jimmy doesn't want to believe that. He wants it to be all about the power disparity or whatever. Well, power disparity doesn't really tell the story, Jimmy.
Of course, the journalists at New York Times don't say that. Isn't that something?
This is what America does. We support the Saudi army who just used chemical weapons in Yemen.
That's right.
They've used chemical weapons in Yemen.
Yes. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
We use chemical weapons in Iraq.
We use them in America.
We use them in America. So that's why we have a show, because the New York Times is never going to tell you the truth about war. They're never going to tell you the truth about foreign policy. And that's why a jag-off nightclub comedian, the fact that I know the truth, that's how I know they know the truth. The people at the New York Times, they know what I know.
Okay, so I'm not sure what Jimmy's talking about with Saudi Arabia and the chemical weapons. It could be he knows something that I don't. So that appears to be from... I mean, it could be they're talking about Syria, but not Yemen. But this is from Fars News Service, this is from 2015. But Fars is an Iranian news service, so, you know, it's either you believe the Saudis or the Iranians. Now, I mean, it's up to you, in my opinion, which one you believe. I don't really care. I don't think, I don't believe any news source independent of you know, some corroboration or, you know, maybe some evidence. It's very difficult. Even the Israeli news sources, you know, I think I like Jimmy's skepticism with a lot of news sources, and you know, of course, the New York Times. I'm not going to rely on them. That's why I go dig a little deeper. I don't think he's digging deeper on this because he doesn't feel he needs to. And you know, I'm not going to pick apart Jimmy Dore every time he criticizes the Israelis, because you know, then there's really a limit how much I can criticize one source. And Jimmy Dore, if you want to make the case that he's the problem with media, you're missing the forest for the trees. I mean, there's problems associated with him, but in other cases, he's actually much better.
They know what I know. I don't have a special gift. They choose not to know what I know. They choose to ignore what I know. And that's why we have a show. And that's why they suck. And that's why our country is where it is, because the Fourth Estate is now owned by the people we're supposed to be protesting and investigating. We're supposed to be protesting and investigating Jeff Bezos and breaking his company up. But now he owns the paper. Mr. Potter owns the paper. Dr. Evil owns the paper. That's why we are where we are. And now they're trying to shut us down. Now they're trying to get rid of independent media. Now they're smearing us left and right because turns out we are a threat. Remember I said a couple weeks ago, as soon as we become a threat, they'll try to smear us. They did it. They did it. This is the second time. First time was Washington Post. Now it's CNN. This little jag-off show, they take time out of their fucking day to go after. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because they have to discredit people telling you the truth because they're not allowed to tell you the truth. And then how are they going to get those viewers? How are they going to get you back? How are they going to get young people, again, to read their stupid paper or watch their stupid TV shows? Well, they got to discredit shows like this. So please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are, you probably aren't. It only takes...
Okay, so that's about it for his video. And we're going to cut it short because... you know, I don't want this video to be too long. And this is just also, by the way, to, you know, test how the OBS stream works on this. But yeah, I think Jimmy's wrong entirely on this issue. I think it has to do with his worldview. You know, there's a lot of people who give, you know, a lot of criticism that I think is well-meaning towards the Israelis. But he really is, you know, he's discounting a lot of the evidence that I can show you. And, you know, by the way, on memory, there's plenty more evidence. But in any case, let me know what you think about this video. I'm going to post it for a few hours from now. You know, and please like, subscribe, and share this video. And have a great rest of your day. By the way, I'm not on Steemit currently. I'm waiting for my account recovery.